So, welcome everybody, and to our session related to exploring Azure Arc and more focused on unleashing extended security updates. Once again, we're very happy to make another recording for the Festive Tech Calendar. So, thanks again to all the organizers and everybody helping out. So, to make this event, monthly event at the end of the year, a success. Let us shortly introduce ourselves. So my name is Wim Thijssen. I work as an Azure technical advisor for a small company in Belgium called Proximus. I'm also quite community-wise, so I'm also a board member of a Belgium user group called MC2MC. I also blog quite a lot. And if you ever want to reach out, you can always contact me through the socials. These days to Twitter, but if you scan the QR code, you can directly contact me through LinkedIn, like most people do these days. So I'm always happy to help with any questions related to Azure Arc, Azure Bastion, and all other things in Azure mostly. And today I'm joined by Didier. So I think Didier, you can introduce yourself a little bit.
Yep. So I'm Didier van Hooyen, also from Belgium. Better known as working hard in IT on the internet. My X link is over there, my blog as well. And again, my LinkedIn is in the QR code. So Wim and I, we talk to each other quite often, and we discuss the world, the state of IT as it is, which is sometimes hilarious, and sometimes...
Sometimes, yeah.
And this is one of the most interesting use cases for
using Azure Arc,
to use Azure Arc, and I've always found it fascinating because it was like, oh, this is nice, and I was really surprised by the, let's say, the demand for it.
Especially in Belgium, I think.
Yeah, because I've made my career out of forcing everybody to upgrade to the more recent versions of Windows, and I'm always a bit shocked sometimes how much very old versions of Windows are still around and need to be managed. Right?
So most of the time, I think everybody thinks everybody's running Windows Server 2022, but I think for a lot of companies, you can already go back for 10 years at least. And if it's just 2012, you're lucky, and it can go even further, longer. So even see some 2003 still running for some reason, but yeah, they're still out there, to be honest. So what are we going to talk about today? Most and all related to the extended security updates. And in our session, we're going to focus in our video more on how you can enable those for Windows Server 2012 or 2012 or 2 through Azure Arc. But there are also some other options, but we're going to talk about them all. So Didier, I think you saw that one before.
Yes.
Windows Server 22. Still running those, I think, at your site?
2012 and 2012 R2 are, let's say, they were legal. We will hunt you down and we will pester you until you give up and let us upgrade them.
Yeah. So the extended, the mainstream end date was 2018. And then Microsoft always give you some extra time to extend that period. And that one ended, a month, 2 months ago, I think, around the 10th of October. So already quite some time passed that there are no normal updates anymore. So out of support. Luckily, Microsoft has something like the extended security updates, or shortly said, the ESUs. So, like we said, Didier, you have for mainstream support. Then most of the time you have some extended support. And then you even have some extended security updates you can even use. So if you're still running those Windows Server 2012s or R2s, you're eligible to use those extended security updates if you follow specific guidelines, of course. And what we will receive by those is that you will get some security updates and critical and important updates. Also for a specific amount of time. They also have a specific end date, but that one we will show later on. If you're running those servers in Azure, so probably do a lift and shift, they're running in Azure, you can use those for free. So you don't need to pay for those ESUs, but you can also yeah, in some way, you still run. You still need to pay for your VM running over there. But yeah, that's another discussion, I think. But if you're still running those servers on-prem, in what way or the other, you can use. You can Arc enable them, but maybe you also have some not Arc enabled ones. You can also purchase those specific ESUs. Just to pinpoint it out, it's not because you bought those ESUs and you're applying those and you're still updating and getting all those security updates that they, like we already said, don't have an end date. Well, that end date is October 13, 2026. Doesn't matter if you're running those in Azure or running on-prem, the end date is exactly the same.
Which is a good thing.
Yeah,
I like it better than the separate dates, actually.
Yeah, because it's difficult because we'll lift and shift it running in Azure, and then maybe have 6 years instead of 3 years, and then you know what happens. Nobody does anything.
Nobody ever pays the debt.
Yeah, okay. So now you can go back to your colleagues, for example, and say, yeah, now we have 3 extra years. We still need to pay quite some money. That's for later on in this session. But we still get those specific security updates, and we have more time to migrate our server or workload in one way or the other. Doesn't matter. But just pinpoint out that day, 3 years, and that's it. Important to know is where's your server hosted. I hope you don't run any 2020, 2012s in Azure, Didier.
I would love to say no, but due to a very emergency thingy, I had to bring one to life. Yes.
Yeah, but just one. So
that's one.
Yeah.
That's my sin.
That's not
publicly that I'm publicly admitting to right now.
Okay. Yeah. You're not alone, I must say. I see a lot of customers still running those, but most of the time they will keep them on-prem and don't lift and shift them. I have a customer doing a lift and shift. When you did that, and those are running in Azure, like I already said, they can also use those ESUs. For those VMs, yes, Azure VMs, that thing is automatically enabled, and you can also get all those updates free of charge. So you only pay for your Azure VM and all related resources, but you don't pay any extra thingy for those specific ESUs. So your Azure bill will be exactly the same as when you're doing or not using it. Then the other thing is you also have your servers running on-prem. You Arc enable that specific server and one of those servers. Then you can enroll those 2012 or the R2 into the extended security updates. You can do it through the Azure portal. You cannot also do it programmatically, but keep in mind, if you want to do it programmatically, you can use Terraform ARM, of course, or Bicep, but it's all, most of those things related, all the actions you can do are still REST API. So you can map that REST API in a Azure PowerShell, Azure CLI, whatsoever, but most of those things are still REST API. Especially, for example, you create a specific ESU, like we will show, and you try to delete it. The easiest way would be Azure portal, click on it, delete. It's not there, so you need to do it in another way. Of course, not everybody will Arc enable their on-premise Windows Servers 2012s or R2s. Some of them probably don't, are able or not applicable to get an Arc agent, Azure Connected Machine agent, maybe for some specific security reasons, maybe because they don't want to deploy any other software on it whatsoever, it doesn't matter. Yep. There are reasons for everything, but you still want to use those ESUs. The only options to get them is by getting a multiple activation key or a MAC key, like we call it, and you need to add that one specifically to those servers. So that server has a specific.
It's only available for software assurance
customers. And only available for software assurance. And you can access and manage those through the Microsoft 365 Admin Center. I myself never did it in that way. So I don't think you also probably didn't do it, Didier, but
No, we only used Mac in very limited use cases, and it's
so if you still have some reason that you have one of those servers running in that way, not Arc enabled, and you want to be ASU using ASU, only way to do it is through that Mac.
So for the record, we have not found a special KMS key that enables those ESUs. It's basically really only the Mac. So if you're happily relying on license activation to Active Directory or a KMS,
that will make it much easier to implement. Now you need to go to every of those servers, implement that Mac key, override it. Hopefully you don't need to reboot, but I will touch wood in that case. So if you're not that lucky, probably you need to reboot. But normally, if you change the key, you shouldn't reboot. But yeah, for some reason, if you want to apply security updates, probably the chance is quite high that you also need to reboot. So yeah, you get the picture, I think. Like Didier already said, Didier, one important thing to know if you want to use ASUs is that you need to have software assurance via any of those following licensing programs. Is it an enterprise agreement, an enterprise agreement subscription, enrollment verification solution, whatsoever? One of those four, you require one of those four. The only one is the one we put on the bottom on the slide. If you're licensed through SPLA or with the server subscription, software assurance isn't necessary for purchasing ASUs. So, but for most people and companies, probably software assurance is required. So once again, it's probably not for everybody. Important thing, and I think we all know that one, at the end of the month, still somebody wants to know what you need to pay for it. Pricing is already dropped a little bit, so Microsoft already lowered a little bit, probably because more and more people and customers are start using those ASUs for some reason. There's a difference. Windows Server 2012 came with Data Center in the Standard Edition, like most of you will know. For the 2012 with the 16 core, you pay around 389 euros. We put it in euros because we're still in Europe. So for everybody else, just go to the Azure pricing page and you will find it in your currency. For a normal 16 core standard server, you already pay 69 euros. But for most people, this one will be the price you will pay, around 35 euros. That's the one I mostly use. And most servers still running 2012 or 2 will fit in that specific hardware case. So with less than 8 cores whatsoever. You also have the same thing for SQL Server. If you're still running those, I hope you don't, but you can also get those extended security updates for any of your SQL Server 2012.
So are we going to talk about the core thingy now, or is that for later during the demo?
I think that's after this one.
Yeah, okay, cool.
But that's an important thingy.
Yeah.
So start using ESUs in the Azure Arc enabled way. You have a few prerequisites. Logically, you require an Azure subscription. Without that, you can't do anything. The thing I mostly do when I start deploying or using Azure Arc or setting it up for a customer, I also create dedicated resource group related to the Azure Arc enabled resource in the back. So I have a specific resource group for the servers, for other infrastructure, and so on and so on. But I will show it in my portals, maybe easier. Most of the time, I deploy those ASUs because every ASU you create is a dedicated Azure resource that will be created. You can store it, for example, in your Arc management group, for example, but because especially if you have quite a lot of ESUs you need to create, it's ideal is to create a dedicated resource group to store those ASUs. It will make cleaning up and managing it and governing it much easier. To use them and to set it up, you require a specific RBAC role, Azure Administrative Contributor role most of the time. To onboard those servers, and like most people will know, for Arc enabling, you can use that service principle. In that way, you can more non-interactively onboard your servers. If you want to use the AZIT MG agent, or you want to run an Arc onboarding script locally from a server, of course, you also need an account with specific elevated privileges. So most of the time, that will be your server administrator account, which can be differently on every server, or maybe you have one to rule them all. And to onboard your service, you can use that predefined script. Maybe Didier, it's an idea that I go to my portal and show some things.
Yeah.
Will be much
Absolutely.
easier to explain.
Yeah.
So let me close this one. Start using Arc. Quite easy. Go to the global search bar, type in Arc. That's how I mostly get there. Just click on Azure Arc, and then you get the Azure Arc overview blade. If you want, for example, to create an Azure Arc onboarding script, it's quite easy. You can, of course, automate it, but let us show it through the portal. Just click on infrastructure, click on add servers. That's it. You can create one for a single server, but yeah, that's most of the time not the easiest way to do it, because you need to create for every server you want to onboard. So luckily, there's something like for the multiple servers. Just generate a script, choose your resource group, region, etc. Just go through it, and in the end, you will have a script that you, for example, can push out to GPOs or through PowerShell remote or whatsoever, so you can onboard more servers at once. For this, it's best that you use that server principle. You will find it over here. So you can create one for your Arc servers, Arc enabling. You can create different server principles. You can create one for onboarding your Kubernetes servers, clusters, sorry. You can use one for your Arc servers. These days, you have also some service principle that you can use for some management afterwards. So different service principles you can create. If you can, through the portal, you can create those. You can simply choose for which ones you choose. For example, if you click over here, you see all those options you have. Quite easy. They also have a specific secret. Probably it's best to store it in your key vault. Otherwise, problems will happen after a while. Most of the time, if you by default create that service principle, that key you're using will be valid for at least a month, or you need to specify a longer time window. But that service principle should be only used for onboarding your service. That's the only thing it should do.
Which I was going to say.
Keep that one in mind.
Let it expire. Let it expire.
Let it expire, and if you need to use it again, just create a new key, etc., and adjust in your script, and you're good to go again. Let me also go to the resource group and show what I meant with that dedicated resource groups. You can see I've selected my Arc Infra subscription. You can see I always use quite the same naming convention. So even in my own testing environment and play environment, I try to use governance, naming conventions, same naming for the resource group, etc. The resource group I meant is this one, resource group specifically for management, but at some customer size, I now even create a dedicated one purely for storing at ESUs. And then you, for example, call it RG, PRD, Arc, ESU, for example, O1, just to give you an idea. Because in this one, for example, you can see all my management Arc-related resources are in there. And if you scroll down, you can see my ESU is also there, but do some management and to have a better look and easier to only work with those ESUs, it's better to store them in a dedicated resource group. That's what I mean. So I think that's already a good explanation. Now maybe we can use that, go into that vCore and other ones. So let me go back to my slides. Yeah, there is. I hope it will work. Yeah. So licensing details. Do I need to explain something, Didier?
I think so. So if you're going to start counting cores and you say, look, I have 8 virtual machines with a single core. So do I need to buy 8 virtual cores and be happy, or am I going to be in trouble?
The thing is, we have a specific server.
Yeah.
That server, for example, has 2 vCores. So it's a virtual machine, 2 vCores. It's a standard edition. And you need to create a standard edition ESU with a minimum, listen to this one, of 8 cores. That's a minimum. Even if your server has just 2, 4, whatsoever, it needs a minimum ESU for 8 cores. You can also not mix and match. So it doesn't, you think, yeah, minimum is 8 cores, so that ESU I can map 4 VMs with 2 VP cores. No, that's not how you should do it.
Is it
one server
does
is
it
mapped to
work?
one license?
Is it allowed? It's not allowed, but can you do it actually? Can you do it?
Nope. So
So
one server is matched to one ESU.
But
The only
what
difference is if you have data center, for example, so maybe you have a dedicated Hyper-V node with a data center on top of it, and all your 2012s are running on that data center edition, then you can map out physical cores, because you need to calculate the physical cores of your data, your Hyper-V host, and that's with a minimum of 16 cores already.
Yeah.
So most of the time, people will use standard with virtual cores. That's the easiest thing to do. And then you can map that specific amount of, with a minimum of 8 to a specific server. The thing I see at the customer side, they're using the same name as, they have a specific server name, and they rename that ESU specifically for that server name.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do that, because if that server is phased out or you're finally at a higher OS or whatsoever, you can't reuse that specific ESU because the name of that specific server is in there. And yeah, it's easier to have a more
generic names.
Generic name. That would be easier. So the important thing to remember is, you can see it, Windows Server 2012 or 2012 or 2 Data Center Edition. Always ESU has a minimum of 16 cores, and the virtual cores is also a minimum of 8, and it's exactly the same for the standard edition.
On the other hand, I hope we're not going to be reusing those ESUs too much, because that would mean that apparently new Windows 2012 or 2012 R2 servers are being onboarded. And the name of the game is get rid of them as soon as possible.
Yeah, because that's the idea.
Yeah, buying yourself time here, which you shouldn't be in this position, actually. It's good that we have a solution, but it's yeah.
The thing you should also remember is, you can spin up programmatically a new ESU. You can set it in a deactivated state. As long as it's in that not active state, you don't pay for it. From the moment you activate it, it's retroactive. So you will pay from October 1, 2023, even if you set it up 5 months later, doesn't matter. You have, for one time, you need to pay for that time difference, and then you start paying, especially from the moment you activated it.
So basically, you pay for the duration from the beginning date of the ESUs to the moment you delete or deactivate the license.
That difference between that time difference, maybe you activate them next year in February. Those 4 or 5 months whatsoever, you pay at once at one bill.
Yeah,
and then from that time when you activated that ESU, you pay that monthly specific price.
So there's no chance here to reduce the bill by delaying doing this. If you need the security updates, you might as well do it as soon as possible, because we're going to pay anyway.
The only thing is, if you onboard your service, for example, and then later on create those ESUs, I think a good practice is to not activate them when you create them, but activate them when you really link them to an eligible resource. And from that moment, you activate them and link it directly. You can, of course, do it manually, but it depends on the amount of servers. Let's hope you don't need to do it for 150 servers or something. But I probably guess still some people will need to do it in that way for that amount.
I'm afraid some people will have thousands.
Yeah, probably. So creating an ESU, let me go back to my portal, where it is. It should be over here. Quite easy. Go back to the Arc blade. Well, let me first show you that I've also already on board some 2012 R2s. If you go under infrastructure, go to machines, you will see operating system that I already have some standards on board. Yeah, NVDA, and I even have a 2 and 8 running.
Yeah.
But we're not going to discuss that one.
No. This has nothing to do with ESUs. There are no longer
this is for
ESUs for that
something
one.
else. So you can see I've onboarded 3 servers already. I just can click on them whatsoever. I can do whatever I want. I can look at the extensions. I can apply the policies, auto manage, all those things I can do. I can apply updates whatsoever. Same thing like you can do with every other onboarded Arc enabled servers. Just to show you that they have a small vCore. Let me open my Hyper-V server. So we also demoed Hyper-V now. You see those servers running. It's my POC 51, my POC 52, and 53. If I look at the settings, just to show you, you can see it just has 2 vCPUs. Same thing for this one, only 2 vCPUs, etc. So even those, I need to map to ESU license with minimum of 8 vCores. That's quite important to remember. Let me go back to my portal. Then if you want to create an ESU through the portal, there are some better ways. We will show it later on. Just go underneath management on the Arc Blade, click on extended security updates. You can see I already have one enabled. It's an ESU license. Look at my naming convention. It's for a standard. It's a vCore, total cores 8, and it's mapped to, if I click on it, a linked resource, it's already mapped to my server 51. If I now want to create a new one, I can do click, 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 click. With ClickUps, you can see you can even specify activate now, activate later. That's the thing we meant. But to make it a lot easier, I have a PowerShell script. Let me see.
I would be shocked if you didn't have one.
No. Let me call it the O2. And you can see I specify the vCore. I click on it. It will take a few seconds. And normally a new ESU license, if I refresh a few times, well, maybe I need to go out, back in. And we need to wait. Was created? I thought it was created.
It looks like it.
Yeah. Well, maybe I need to go out again. Sometimes it takes a few moments. There it is.
There it is. Yeah. So you can assign those to, when you activate it, you can assign it to a VM. You can also unassign it from a VM.
Yeah, you can do
it. I talk too much to people who are in charge of paying the bills. So they will
importantly look what the status is.
Yeah, but I will immediately. I can already see a question coming from the people that pay the bills.
Yeah.
So can I create 10 licenses, assign them to 10 VMs, then patch them, then unassign them, and assign them to
how you should do it. Yeah. I know what you mean, but that's not how it should be done.
That's not how it should be done, right?
Yeah. No. So I created that one. First thing I need to do, you can edit it. And then you can simply activate it. You can also do it programmatically, but just to show you, you save it from the moment it's activated. So normally if you go back one and refresh, it will also once again, let me go up my blade. It will go quicker.
And again, once you activate it, you pay since the start of the ESUs. So if somebody asks you in 18 months' time to deploy a 2012 R2 server because you have some software that needs it or doesn't support, between brackets, any older version, and you enable ESUs, your first bill is going to be significant.
It will be quite an amount of money, and then you see that smaller number of money from month after month. But it will take some time. And the only thing you need to do is go to the linked resources. Let me go back. eligible resources, you can see for my 5.1, so it automatically see which servers are 2012 or 2 and are Arc enabled. So if you enable new servers, they will automatically be in this list, and you can easily select one, enable ESUs. Let's hope it's already working now. Select virtual course, and then you can select that O2 license. Yeah. And then you just enable it, and after a few moments, that specific server will be linked as an eligible resource to that specific ESU. And that's so how we do it.
You cannot, by mistake, assign them to non-eligible resources. You cannot, by mistake, assign them to 2016, 2022.
The only thing I from time to time see at customer sites, Didier, they have a specific ESU license and they map more eligible resources to that specific, to one standard, for example, minimum 8-core license, because they think I have 2 V-core VMs running on-prem, and so I map them to that 8 minimum.
I get it, but I'm actually a bit surprised that isn't blocked, because they could say, look, this license is assigned to a resource, so you can't reuse it, right?
Yeah.
But apparently it's not.
No. That's not how it works.
But it's not because it's possible, it's legal. That's
yeah. Probably if you get an audit from Microsoft, they will look at those specific things, how it's set up. So you can simply see there's one linked resource. So I mostly preferred and deployed at customer sites and advise them just use that standard license and map it to specific one server and then check it. It's easy to validate it.
Of course, maybe it gives them a bit of flexibility if they later on want to change the licensing model and say, look, we are going to allow it, they can, right? So it's in there, yeah.
Of course, let me also create a third one, maybe. It goes quite fast. The thing is, let me go back out again. I really love the portal. It's also really fast from time to time. Let me go back, and normally if I click refresh, not yet there.
Maybe it's just, see that
other one is activated, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, there it is. So maybe you created some of those ESU licenses and you want to delete it. Normally you should be able to do it, and then you think, oh, maybe I click over here and I select delete, but what's not there? That specific delete build. So at the moment, the only option to delete those licenses is also in a programmatically way through the REST API. Luckily, once again, Didier, what did I create, you think?
A script, I think.
Of course. So I have a remove script. You can see specifying my subscription and specifies that specific ESU license name just with 2 parameters. I click on it, and normally it will run for maximum a minute. And if I'm lucky already, no, I need to
patience.
Yeah, I'm much too fast, I think.
I think you just have to wait, and all your clicking is just until the time has passed. But whilst we're looking at this, okay, it's succeeded. But I was thinking, look, if I have 2 licenses, I decommissioned 2 virtual machines.
Yeah.
Right. So I have 2 free licenses right now that I can assign again to another virtual machine. Let's say I have a 12-core virtual machine, and I have 2 8-core licenses, so I can assign both of those to the same server, or do I need to create?
The minimum is 8. So from the moment a server has more cores than 8, I will show you.
The question is, can I assign 2 licenses?
You have those 2 core
to
options also. So 12, you set 12 cores.
Yeah.
So normally you can uplist it with those 2 cores, and you can add those specifically. So you only map it to a 12 core, and that's how you create it.
Okay.
So you don't need two 8 cores on top of it, or
yeah.
So it's a minimum and a maximum, and you can play around with those 2 cores. So from the moment you go above 8, you can add with a minimum of 2 extra cores. You can until you reach the number you
need to mess
require.
around with adding 2 8-core licenses.
No.
Yeah.
from the moment it's 8, you can. It's also a minimum of 2. You can add 2, but if you need 12, you just add 2 of 2.
But that's okay. I never
Yeah.
I never see much uneven core VMs out there.
No, and even because it's a quite old OS DDA, I don't think there will. Let's hope they're not running that much server with more than 8 V cores anymore on 2012. Otherwise, I hope you already changed the OS to a higher one.
SQL comes to mind sometimes.
Yeah, that's why that SQL 2012 ESUs are also there.
Yeah.
That's another reason. And of course, now you're enlisted to get those extended security updates. Of course, you can. You need to get them and apply them on your servers. You can use whatever tool or resource service you're already using. If you're using Update Manager, you can push it out to Update Manager. If you're using the VWSUS, you can still use that one. If you're using SCM, you can also use that one. But so one thing I want to remember, if you want to continue and it's not working, let me change this one. That should be better. And if it's not working from the first thing you set it up, there's a specific KB article explaining what extra things you need to deploy or install before you get it working. So maybe you still need to install some extra features or extra services on your specific Windows Server 2012 or R2 before those ESU updates will be working.
Yeah.
But it depends. It's not for every server. It's probably because you're missing something or something is not there that's required. But this specific KB article explains all possible things you should do.
But if your servers are up to date, normally you should be in good condition.
Yeah.
And since you're installing ESUs, I can assume that you're interested in patching your servers and they should not be lagging 6 or whatever months behind.
It will be quite funny if you're already 1 or 2 years behind and then you must start using ESUs on that one because you first need to bring it up to those 2 later years and then that's the thingy. For some reason it's quite strange. You need to do some extra updates or whatsoever, apply something because
No, it's a nice solution, and with the automation and the scripting, you've built a really nice, let's say, procedure process around it. I like it.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say, because it goes against my nature, it's like people. You could also spend the time and the money in making sure you don't get into tech debt.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some systems with 2012 R2 with SQL, and in the later years of their existence, with the changes in TLS, we spent quite a lot of support time in upgrading .NET, configuring the registry so it would use TLS 1.2. But at a given moment, stuff just stops working properly, and that's a lot of support effort, possible downtime. So basically, you can pay now to buy yourself some time, but you're still gonna have to pay to do the effort to upgrade. And if you don't, you are still going to have to deal with all the extra support and issues you're going to have by running on an old OS. And last but not least, if there is a bug, well, it's only security updates, so you're going to be out of luck anyway.
There it is. Yeah. So quite some things you need to think of. It's a good solution, a temporary solution, but in the end, you're still already extending things again.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to do the work or don't want to do the research or whatsoever. It's just
Well, if for whatever reason you are in the situation, you have a way to buy yourself some time, but it does not give you a free card to stop and forget about the problem. So
and maybe also just another automation thing you can do to make it yourself much easier is, for example, just onboard those 2012 R2s or 2012 into Arc, and don't let somebody manually map the vCores to the exact server in a CSV, for example. Just use a KQL query. If they're onboarded, you can use KQL to just make a CSV, mapping the server names with the exact vCores, for example, and then I can make another. I'm trying to make a script that will get that specific CSV, create the ESUs based on the vCores listed, and then automatically enable the eligible resources to the correct. Yeah. But it's still work in progress. But yeah, that if I have that one, it will be quite easy for everybody. Just run a specific KQL, create that CSV.
That's a good idea. That's a really nice idea.
Pick up that CSV and just create this automatically, and probably a lot of mismapping and misconfigurations.
The scary thing is you are preparing for data centers with thousands of these things.
Yeah. But let's hope I don't see those. It's just something that because I have a customer with still a few of those 2012, and it's much easier to do them and not do somebody do the manually work to map everything, and then probably they make a typo or whatsoever, or it didn't look completely good at the specific course.
I get it. It's 2023. Automation should be something that's in your skill set, in your toolbox, right? Yeah.
But I think if you can write things like that, you should also be able to upgrade your server to something else, or change your workload to something else.
Yeah, and be strict in it. I mean, it's not because a software vendor says they only support 2012 or 2012 or 2, then basically that software vendor is putting you into a very difficult position. And you should rethink your relationship with the software vendor. Now I know there are a lot of regulated, let's say, fields, medical, aeronautics, where the regulation is stronger than the, let's say, the other forces. But if you're not in such a highly regulated environment, and you can make those decisions, basically you should, right? That's good management. That's if you have ITIL, if you have all those processes, if you have change boards and review boards, and after all that money spent on half a dozen people discussing all this stuff year in, year out, and 10 years later you still find yourself running server 2012 or even earlier, then you have to start thinking, what is this doing for me? What's the benefit of having all these people discussing how to stay up to date and avoiding tech debt? It isn't working, is it?
I think if you need to discuss it with your IT manager or somebody who's responsible for managing everything and paying everything, you can see it as I always explain it, it's a workaround on a workaround.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning you didn't brought your servers up to date. You have now a temporary workaround again because you didn't do it before.
Yeah. But and we all know how dangerous temporary workarounds are, right?
Yeah, because you still need to do the work, because now we have once again, you just extended the date, but you still need to change those things, because if you reach that 2026 date, no updates will be pushed out anymore.
And if you're planning to keep using them after that deadline, then why are you even bothering in the first place, right? I mean, then don't need to buy yourself time. Just run it for another 10 years, hope you don't get hacked or whatever.
It's a strange thing. But you can use it, and I hope we explained to everybody how to set it easily up, how to configure it, and hopefully a lot of people don't mismatch those specific licenses, but because that's the thing I also see quite a lot at customer sites.
Yeah.
And I think
nice, very nice.
With that being said, Didier, we can wish everybody a happy holiday season, I think.
Absolutely.
Also look at all those other videos and community contributions added to the Festive Tech calendar. Also look out on the hashtag on X it is these days, I think. And look at that cloud family. Once again, we hope you learned something out of our session, out of our recording, and hopefully you don't need to use it that much in your environment.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.